Well, this is it, the Lofoten Islands. When we were sitting in Cornwall plotting an adventure for this year, we talked about Norway, and then we thought, where do we go in Norway? And gradually the ideas started getting bigger and bigger, and eventually we saw this chain of islands which looked absolutely stunning, the Lofoten Islands. So we decided that that would be our ultimate aim. I never for 1 minute actually thought we'd make it here. It's north of the Arctic Circle. Who knew what the weather was going to throw at us? Who knew what the conditions were going to be like? But we're here. We've actually tied up at Rain on the Lofoten Islands. It's the end of the mission. Well, it's the furthest point of the mission. We've still got to get home, but I'm just so stoked, and it's such a beautiful place. It obviously relies totally on fishing, and there is just an all-permeating smell of drying cod around the whole of this bay. Anyway, should we go and have a walk around town, see what it's like?
One of the world's largest seasonal fisheries takes place in Lofoten. From mid-February until the end of April, millions of Arctic cod migrate from the Barents Sea to their spawning grounds near Lofoten. When caught, the cod are dried on drying racks, using techniques that have not changed in many centuries. The freshly caught fish is gutted, then hung on the racks for around 3 months, before being hung indoors for a similar period. Since the Middle Ages, Italy has been the main export market for the dried cod, known as stockfish, where it's a popular delicacy.
Well, we got to Lofoten yesterday. We had a fantastic day. Just planning now what we're going to do today. We're going to keep going northwest up the chain of islands, sort of visiting 2 or 3 more islands, fjords we want to go up, harbours we want to visit. Weather's looking good, hoping for another good day in the islands. Basically empty, isn't it? Desolate like that. This is an interesting example of what's happening in the Lofoten Islands, because with the fishing industry dying and a lot of villages actually becoming deserted, this particular one has been rejuvenated and it's become a holiday destination, a tourist attraction. And it's great, it just looks good for it. It's keeping the local economy alive and vibrant, and it's a beautiful, beautiful spot. Well, what seemed a crazy idea has actually become a reality. Last year I picked my boat up in Mallorca and brought it back from the Mediterranean via the north coast of Africa back home to Cornwall. So over the winter I thought I'd like to have a mission this year which was perhaps just the other extreme, and head up to Norway, to the Arctic Circle. I hadn't known anything about Norway at all. It was just this big, massive landmass somewhere to the northeast of England, across the North Sea. I never even thought about going there, didn't know anything about it. And the more I researched, the more I looked into it, the more fascinating Norway became, and the more I was captivated by the idea of coming here. So We made all the plans, we waited for the weather, we suddenly saw a break in the weather, and just two of us, Mark Finch, who runs a surf school, surf shop in Cornwall, and myself, headed up here mid-April. The journey from England to Norway was eventful. It took us 7 days and it was an adventure in itself. But since we arrived in Norway, it's only taken us a week, and we're here, we've crossed the Arctic Circle, and we've reached the place which was our target, the place we'd actually decided we'd be aiming for, the Lofoten Islands. And they're everything you could have expected of them. Just coming in today, we saw an orca, we've seen an eagle in the fjord, we've seen 2 avalanches because the Arctic summers, or the Arctic springs here now, and gradually the snow's melting and the grass is starting to grow. We even just saw a white mountain hare running up the mountainside.
We decided to spend our last night in the Lofotens at Kirkefjord.
It's effectively an abandoned village. It's not abandoned in that nobody lives here any time. I don't know whether it's a fishing village during the cod season or maybe it's a holiday village during the summer, but at the moment there is not a single soul here. All the houses are empty, nobody around, no sign of life at all. We've tied up at the very, very head of the fjord here, and it's probably one of the loneliest places that we will moor on this trip. But it's also one of the most beautiful places, surrounded by mountains, and it's just quintessential Norway. Absolutely gorgeous.
I've travelled widely as a filmmaker to many remote places. But after this adventure, I'm convinced that Norway is the most beautiful place on the planet. I hope it won't be long before I return.